As promised, I'm back doing my reviews for Star Trek Discovery, or as I like to call it, STD. I am not going to do individual reviews for the last 3 episodes. I'm just going to do my catch-up review. So after we came back from the mid-season break, I was right. They are in an alternate universe, and not only are they in an alternate universe, but they're in the Mirror universe, which has appeared so many times from Star Trek the original series to Deep Space Nine. So I predicted that. I also predicted that Tyler was a double agent. I knew it the whole time. We found out in the most second to last episode that he is actually the Klingon guy, and he is got a double agent. He's like the Manchurian Klingon candidate. Awesome, I knew it. Even better though, going to the Mirror universe has had some interesting changes on Star Trek. First of all, I would like to discuss why everyone in the Mirror universe always has superior hair, makeup, and outfits to people in the standard universe. Does evil make you hotter? Is that why dominatrixes like me are always dressed super sexy and evil, and good girls are always wearing something boring? Maybe the Mirror universe is the sexier, more interesting place. I was actually hoping that Georgiou and Michael would end up being secret evil lovers, but instead they decided to go with the mother-adopted-daughter dynamic, so I'll let it slide. Anyway, I called it, but even more interesting now, we learned that Lorca is a Mirror universe Lorca, and he has been the whole time. So he probably knows how to cross back and forth between universes. And so Discovery's probably only trapped in the Mirror universe as long as Lorca wants to be there. And he's obviously there for his own creepy, nefarious desires, and also probably wants to bang Michael, we have discovered. But ultimately, I think this is going in a really interesting place. I do find myself wishing that this Star Trek series had less of a story arc. There's so much intense story arc between the Klingons and the war with the Klingons and the Mirror universe and the spore drive and the engineering guy losing his partner, and oh, that was so sad, but it was kind of sweet out in the space mycelium nebula. But ultimately, one of the things I loved about TNG was they had all this time while they were kind of floating in space to have human interest stories. So we have Data's Day, a whole episode where Data learns how to tap dance and paints his dreams and talks to his cat and composes poems. We have entire episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation that are not driven by any story arc at all, except kind of these interesting exploration of certain ethics, right? There's even The Measure of a Man, where Data is forced to defend his autonomy against a Federation scientist who wants to disassemble him and figure out how his positronic brain works. And it's an entire episode about a legal process and figuring out whether a robot can be autonomous. Where is the human interest in the new Star Trek Discovery? I'm worried about them. I appreciate the characters. I like that Tilly has much better hair in the Mirror universe, going along with my theory that evil is hotter. But where is the human interest? We've gone back to the Klingon Wars where it's all conflict, conflict, conflict all the time. And my biggest complaint about Star Trek Discovery up until this point has been that Gene Roddenberry's whole premise behind Star Trek was it was supposed to be a universe in which we had evolved past our warring nature and were out to discover and explore the universe. But this is an extremely conflict-driven episode. However, I think that just because Star Trek has gotten so fascist in all the reboots, it's probably a reflection of our society, which is also getting more fascist. Also, Gene Roddenberry is dead, so there's no one to stop them from corrupting his dream, and by them I mean CBS and all the people working on the show now. Even people like Ronald D. Moore, who went on to do Battlestar Galactica and other science fiction, aren't really working on this version of Star Trek. So we will see how it keeps going. I have continued to resubscribe to the CBS streaming app just so I can watch Star Trek, just so they know that Star Trek is worth money. So, this is Mistress Harley. I'll be reviewing our next episode of Star Trek Disco, or STD, next week.